Hello, my name's Tim. Welcome to Tim Burbage Reads, and this is a bit of a celebration. So this very small channel in this very small part of the internet hit 200 subscribers, which is a big milestone for me. It may not be for other people, but it is for me, and I'm very grateful for all of you that are here. And I put on the community tab, which I didn't know was something I could do, I put a little Q&A out as a little celebration. So I'm going to do the questions and answers now. So I've got the questions over here, so I'm going to be reading those. First of all, I got a load of questions from Maeve Ever Reading, who is a really nice channel. She's really great at kind of finding smaller channels and tagging them in things, and kind of making sure lots of eyes reach lots of different channels, which is a very nice thing to do. She first of all said congratulations, so thank you very much. And then she said, what is one book you wish more people would read? For me, the book that I keep talking about is Legend of the Condor Heroes by Jin Yong. I think it's a really great story. It's an epic martial arts, wushu, historical fiction, fantasy, brilliant story of brotherhood and upbringing and honor and the actual art of kung fu. The main character is a bit of an idiot and it's full of very, very cool things happening, and you're like, this is a cool thing. Two kung fu masters are fighting on a pirate ship while it's on fire and it's sinking. Super cool. And then I thought the last book, A Heart Divided, really brought home that character development and the themes of the book really, really well. So it's one story split into 4 volumes. I say kind of like Lord of the Rings is one story split into 3 volumes. This is one story split into 4. The first book is called A Hero Born and is very much an origins. Then you have A Bond Undone, which is fantastic. Then you have A Snake Lies Waiting, and the 4th book is A Heart Divided. I think my favourite books are 2 and 4. 1 and 3 are still very, very, very good. I got Rebecca Nicole Reeds to read book 1, and she thought it was okay. And I was like, my heart, oh. But I do think more people should read it. And the sequel series, which is called Return of the Condor Heroes, I think, is actually more popular in China. And the books have started being translated into English. The first volume's translated. And I want more people to read it because I want them to translate the rest of them. I don't want to buy just book 1 because the books just end on cliffhangers, like complete middle of the story just stop because it's split into volumes. So I don't want to read book 1 and then wait and then read book 2 and then not know where I am and all that kind of stuff. So please buy the series so that they continue to translate the sequel series, because I really, really, really want to read that. The next question is there a book character that you wish you could be like? For me, my very first thought when I read this question was Captain America from the MCU and from the Marvel comic book stories, because I think he is very honourable and kind of always makes the right choice and always takes the high ground, and I think that's a good life lesson to aim for. Generally, historically, whenever I read, especially when I was reading as a kid, people talk about Mary Sue's, and I liked reading those characters. I liked reading characters who you could aim to be like, rather than characters that you are like necessarily. And I think that kind of carries through in my choice for that. I think if I was picking a book character, probably Lyra Belacqua from The Northern Lights, because she isn't afraid of anybody, and she's willing to do whatever it takes to help her friends and protect her friends and save people, which is a very noble thing to do. The next question from Maeve, because she asked loads, which was great, is there a book you feel changed your life? You could say a few things. You could say when I read The Hobbit when I was in year 6 at school, that changed my life because that opened me up to fantasy genre, then read loads of Redwall and all that kind of stuff. But in terms of an adult, it would be when I was late teens, I would say. I read a book called The Traveller by John Twelvehawks. And what this book told me about is it's a book about kind of transcending to different planes of existence, and these people known as travelers become prophets, become leaders, things like that. And you have people called harlequins who kind of defend them. But it's about something called the panopticon, which is the surveillance state, ultimately, and how the government and companies are always looking to hoard more data, hoard more information about you. Companies do it to sell you things, and governments do it to control you. And the idea of a panopticon is a prison with actually very few guards, but everyone feels like they're constantly being watched. So they have to be on their best behavior because they feel like they're constantly under surveillance. And it kind of views how I view data and my information and just cyber security in general. And the willingness of people to give up their rights to their image, their data, their likeness, things like that. And now with generative AI, which is dreadful, like it's a really interesting thing to think about. And that book kind of hit me at just the right time in my age, where I was like developing my own political views and all that kind of thing. So yeah, I would have to say The Traveller by John Twelfthawks, who is one of my favourite authors generally. And he's someone who no one knows his real name. His editor has never even met him. Like, he doesn't do any press. I follow him on Facebook, and he posts once every 6 months, and he's like, I've just been to all of these countries in his pictures. That's it. Like, no one knows who he is or anything like that. So his kind of anti-surveillance message, he actually lives by that as well. And I think that's even cooler. Next is, what's something that always makes you laugh? So from a book perspective, I think the funniest book I've ever read is probably Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Just jokes, just constant jokes. Really, really funny. Yeah. In terms of other things that always make me laugh, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, I think, is absolutely hilarious. I do like laughing. I laugh a lot. And yeah. So, but from a book-wise perspective, I think Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy is just so funny. And then, if you had to describe yourself in 3 words, what would they be? This is tough. I would say personable. I think I get on well with people. I like talking to people. I'm an extrovert. I think, what else? I think interesting. I think I have interesting views on things. I like being interested in things. I know a lot of facts. I kind of, and factoids and things like that. And then predominantly being a parent, tired. Yes, I'm very tired all of the time. But yeah, that's what I'm going to go with. I'm too tired to come up with a better one for the third one. But thank you very much, Maeve, for some lovely questions. Next wasn't even a question, it was a comment from Lady Mayor Reed, who's a great channel, saying, huge congrats, dude, you're so underrated. Thank you very much. And basically Neda says congratulations, so thank you as well, Neda. Next, I got some questions from StoryTube, which said, give us a favourite book from each genre or medium you read. So, medium, interesting. My favourite audiobook is I'm currently listening to The Fellowship of the Ring, and that's the best audiobook I've ever listened to. Best comic would be Spider-Man Life Story, which is just a brilliant comic book. And then for other kind of novels, I'm going to go with children's books, YA, fantasy, classics. Those are kind of the main areas that I read. So from a children's book perspective, book that I read as a child, which I absolutely loved, is the Deptford Mice trilogy by Robin Jarvis, which was just outstanding, and I've never seen anyone talk about it. And then from reading to my kids, it has to be The Creakers by Tom Fletcher. That book is so good. It's about monsters under your bed, and it does a really, really good job on a brilliant protagonist, great monsters, tension, drama, kid-focused story where a kid takes the lead. Really, really good. From a YA perspective, because I do read a lot of YA, I used to. I don't read it as much now. I still think the best YA book I've ever read is The Outsiders by S.E. Hinton. Just outstanding control of prose and voice, about these gangs in the 50s, gangs of kids from different sides of town, ultimately fighting. They're fighting each other, but they're really fighting their background, and they're fighting to get out of where they are, and there's no way out for them. It's just this endless war, and no one wins. Really, really great story. Very short. I think everybody should read it. From a fantasy perspective, because I do read quite a lot of fantasy, I still think, well, my favourite is Lord of the Rings, but that's pretty basic, and I've talked about Legend of the Condor Heroes already on this, so go read that. I would say The Princess Bride by William Goldman, which is probably one of my favourite fantasy films. I think it's just perfect as a film, and the book is the book's written by William Goldman, and he adapted the book into the film himself, so very good adaptation, but there's still big changes, and the big changes are about the framing narrative. So in the film you've got Columbo reading to Fred Savage, reading the story of The Princess Bride. The book framing device is very different and just outstanding. It's so dry and entertaining, and it's just really heartfelt and earnest. I love The Princess Bride. I love it so much. And then from a classics perspective, I think my favourite classic that I've read is probably Catch-22 by Joseph Heller, which I think is just hilarious. It's so funny, and also dark at the same time, but for me the humour really sticks out, and major, just brilliant. And another classic story which I really love is Robin Hood. I just love the story of Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, Merry Men, Little John, Will Scarlet, rob from the rich, give to the poor, Friar Tuck, Alan a Dale, Guy of Gisborne, all of that stuff. Swashbuckling, archery competitions, disguises upon disguises, out in the forest, living as an outlaw, Maid Marian, all that kind of stuff. I just love anything Robin Hood. So thanks StoryTube, thanks Carlos and Yolanda, because I think they make really, really good content, and they just have a very broad range of reading, which is something I also do, so I think it's nice to see people just read whatever they want and then talk about it. And then the last question is from my wife, Leanne, who said, what book are you gutted that you'll never get to read for the first time again? What a brilliant question that is. For me, I think it has to be Mortal Engines by Philip Reeve. And I mean the whole story of 4 books in the series. Mortal Engines is just fantastic. It's a story about these cities that become motorized. They call it municipal Darwinism. Cities mobilize and motorize and rage across this nuclear wasteland and eat each other. And you start off on the city of London, which has St. Paul's Cathedral on the top still, and you see, there's so many nods to London and Britain in general. There's a motorised town called Staines, brilliant. And I loved picking out all of those things, and the story itself was brilliant. It took big swings, really big swings. The whole series did. Hey, let's just do a big time jump. Cool, great. Hey, let's also have these roboticized crab sea scavengers. Like, so many brilliant ideas crammed into this series. And then the ending, the last book, A Darkling Plain, has a device in it at the end, which is just outstanding, both in its idea, in its theming, and in its execution. And I will always remember reading that last page, those last sentences, and being completely awestruck at what Philip Reed, the author, managed to accomplish. So, yeah, brilliant questions. If you put any more questions below, I will reply to them. I reply to every comment. And I want to say thank you so much for clicking that button. It takes 2 seconds of your time, but it does mean a lot to me, and I really appreciate it. So, now that I've been nice, it's time for you to get out of my house.